Traceability continues to be a hot topic as producers in all segments debate the overall biosecurity of the U.S. beef industry and whether we could react effectively to an animal disease outbreak. For more on the current traceability situation, here's NCBA's Ethan Lane.
Thanks, Lane. Well, we've been talking about traceability and the new rule from USDA that will start impacting cattle producers' operations on November 5th for seemingly years now. This is an effort that we saw really start to take shape under the Trump administration. And over the last few years, USDA has continued to evolve this concept of transitioning the use of metal ear tags to a tag that USDA is referring to as both visually and electronically readable, to cover those classes of cattle that have been subject to the animal disease traceability rule since 2013. That new rule will go live for cattle producers starting November 5th of this year, in just a few weeks. And it's important that cattle producers around the country understand just what that means for their operations. First and foremost, I think it's important for folks to understand what this rule is not. This rule does not create the ability for USDA to aggregate information on your larger farm and ranch operation. It does not give them the ability to ascertain emissions data or build some kind of a database to use for other purposes. This is basically a new way of transferring the same information animal health officials are already using to monitor that class of cattle intact over 18 months, moving interstate, as well as rodeo cattle, show cattle, and bison, when they're moving throughout the supply chain. So this doesn't apply to feeder cattle. This doesn't apply to cattle under 18 months of age. This is about breeding stock moving interstate. And moving forward, those cattle, which are already traceable, are going to be required, if they're using a metal ear tag right now, to switch to one that's both visually and electronically readable. So that's an 840 tag as far as currently approved technology. That tag has to have the ability, yes, to be read by one of these readers, whether it be in a sale barn, whether it be in a chute, whether it be a wand or a panel reader. But also, it has to have the ability for folks to read that tag with their eyes from arm's length, the same way we've been doing for a long time in this industry. And that is, according to USDA, the extent of what they're going to do in this space. They actually say in the rule, we're not contemplating any expansion of this program at this point, nor does NCBA policy given to us by all of you support anything beyond what's being contemplated in this rule. We've worked hard with Congress and USDA to ensure that the compliance cost for this first round of tags is not being borne by our producers around the country. That's policy that you sent to us and made clear was important as part of this process. We lobbied and received $15 million in funding for tags in the last round of appropriations, and 8 million RFID tags have been sent out to state veterinarians and state animal health officials around the country to comply with this rule. Every state got every tag they asked for as part of this process. So if you're contemplating needing to comply with this rule after November 5th, your first stop ought to be your state vet. Make sure you're talking to them and make sure you're taking advantage of those tags that have been provided for you to comply with this rule. We're already back to Congress asking them for money to make sure that next year's tag allocation is going to be covered as well, because we want to make sure moving forward this doesn't become a burden to our producers around the country. This has been a long, arduous process, and one that unfortunately has been subject to a lot of folks out there that have a lot of money to be made, quite frankly, by either misleading the public about this, scaring cattle producers about what's actually being contemplated here, or otherwise just kind of stirring up a lot of that anger that we see so often on social media. It's important that you all find that real factual information as part of this, rather than being misled by some of these people who kind of have some financial motives to deceive here. Talk to your state cattlemen's association, talk to NCBA, talk to your state veterinarian, and make sure you get the right information on what this program is and what you need to do to comply. We'll be there every step of the way as well, and we'll also be monitoring the rollout of this process to ensure that it meets our members' policy objectives and the tenets for a traceability program that you all have laid out to us in policy.
And if you want to keep up with all the issues facing cattle producers like traceability, a good place to go for the latest information is NCBA's website. And while you're there, you should also consider becoming a member. Just call 866-233 3872 or go to the website ncba.org to join.